I'd like to create a tutorial that has the steps described both in text and in images. One of the ways to get those images is through screenshots. I'm going to do a quick demonstration of screenshots and then how to manipulate the images and the text once they're in the tutorial. I'm going to start with the new Microsoft snipping tool. So as the snipping tool comes up on the screen, I'm going to take a picture over here of this Groupon ad. Let's say I wanted to share this with someone and maybe explain some of the steps to signing up for the Groupon. So I have the screenshot of the Groupon here. I'm going to go to Edit and Copy. I can also use Control C for copy or right click and copy, or I can actually save this if I go to File, Save, and save it to my desktop, and then however I need to get it into the Word document. For me, copying it is the easiest. So I'm finished with the screenshot. I'm going to work only in Word now, and I'm going to either right click and paste that screenshot, or of course I can use the edit menu or the keyboard commands Control V to paste. Once I have this picture in here, you can see right now it's very big, and in a tutorial that might be too big. So if I grab from the corners, of course always grab from the corners so as not to distort your picture. You see if I grab from one of the edges, I'll distort the picture. It's sort of squashed. I'm going to undo that. Or if I grab from one of these edges, then it becomes distorted vertically. Undo that. So always grab from the corners to change the size of your images. That seems like a pretty reasonable size. So there are a couple other things I might want to do. First, I might need to crop this picture. Let's say I don't want this bottom part in here. So to crop, I come up to the Format menu. First, the most important thing to start is to be clicked on the picture. You can see now that I'm clicked away from the picture, that Format menu doesn't even appear. So I first have to click on the picture. Now that Format menu appears, so I click on the Format menu. Off to the right here is the Crop button. I'm going to click Crop. When I do that, you're going to see these images will change. So I'm going to click Crop, and now these are the crop icons. I have to hover my mouse directly over the crop icons until my cursor matches the crop icon. You can see how it changes from these four arrows. If I hover right over top of that crop mark, my cursor changes to a crop mark. Same on the edges. You'll see the cursor change to look like the edge. That means I can click and then drag to crop. So I was saying I want to take this bottom strip out. So if I grab from this edge, I wait for my cursor to change, I click and drag up, and you can see it, Word is showing me where the crop line will be. And whenever I get to the point where I want the crop line to be, I simply let go of the mouse button, and I've cropped out the bottom part of that picture. I'm going to undo that and show you the same thing from a corner. So you see when I undid it, I'm now out of crop mode. I can tell because the images have changed. So I'm going to go back up. I'm clicked on the picture. I'm going to go back up and hit crop. Now I'm just going to try it from a corner. So I wait until the cursor changes, click and drag, and now I can drag in as well, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to drag up until I get to the point where I'd like to crop and release the mouse button. So now I've cropped. To get out of crop mode, I simply click away from the picture, or in some cases you might have to hit the enter key. But so I'm either going to hit enter or simply click away. There's one other way I need to manipulate the picture, but I'm going to type in some text before I show you that. So I'm going to type in the number 1 and say first log into Groupon at groupon.com. So I'm giving my steps to my audience. Number 2, maybe number 2 is going to go under the picture, so I'm just going to hit enter another time or two to stop the numbering. And then I'm going to come down below the picture and type number 2, click on featured deals. And now let's say I wanted to move this. So here's the featured deal tab. So let's say I wanted to move this picture off to the right so that it was taking up this space. I have a lot of empty white space over here, and maybe I want this picture to be off to the right here so that it was filling some of this white space and I could move my steps up. Well, you can see I'm clicking on this picture and trying to drag it over to the right, and nothing's happening. So this is where I need that other image skill. So if I right click on this picture and choose text wrapping allows the picture to stay side by side with the text. So if I change the text wrapping to tight, and you can explore, you can sort of play with these different options, see what they all do. But I'm going to change to tight. And now you can see this picture can actually exist next to this text. And again, I'm going to move it around a little bit and just kind of see what it does, where I can put it, where it looks best, and the different places where this image can sit, sort of coexist with the text. But that's an important step to be able to change the text wrapping. Again, I just right click on the picture, hover over text wrapping, and then choose the options. For me, tight usually works pretty well. This through, you can see again, you just kind of play with them through. Well, didn't change it the way I thought it would. Let's try text wrapping and behind text. Alright, so you can see that does something a little bit different. Not good for a tutorial, but it's something different. I'm going to change it back to tight. Alright, so now let's say I want to move on to number 3. As soon as I hit enter, I'm going to get that number 3. But then I can kind of hit enter a couple more times to move the cursor wherever I want it to be. And then if I want to restart my numbering, I can just type 3 period space, and now Word has allowed me to continue numbering. I recommend you use the numbering in your tutorials so that you can always, if you decide you need to change something, let's say I wanted to change something up here, maybe I want to add something here. First check the local deals, and if I have used the automatic numbering, my number, this was originally number 2, it automatically shifts to number 3. If I didn't use Word's automatic numbering feature, then I would have to manually go back and number all my steps. In this example, that's not a big deal, but if I have 25 steps and I change number 2, I'd rather not have to manually go back and change everything. So I'm going to try to use Word's numbering system as often as I can. You saw me just put some empty space after this number 2. Obviously, if I just hit enter, I'll get number 3. I don't want that. So if I just want empty space, I can hold down the shift key and then hit enter as many times as I need, and that will create some space without continuing the numbering. So that shift key. You can also just hit enter a few more times. So if I hit enter and get 3, I can just hit enter again, and that 3 should disappear. So a few things to think about as you're creating your tutorials. You're going to want text to describe the steps. You're going to want images to show your steps. Of course, you're going to give it a title, number your steps, make sure the pictures are all visible, readable, and the last thing you're going to want to include will be some highlights for your audience. So I'm going to move over to the Insert tab, go to Shapes. Arrows are great for this, circles are great for this, so I'm going to start with an arrow, and you can see here number 3 is click on Featured Deals. So I'm going to show with the arrow where the featured deal is. So I clicked near Featured Deals, I'm dragging to the actual Featured Deal tab, and now I have an arrow that shows what I'm describing. So click on Featured Deals, that's the featured deal. I can manipulate this arrow. Again, if I click on it, you'll see up here there are no tabs yet, but if I click on this arrow, I get a new tab called Format. Now I can change the color of my new shape. So that's a shape, and the outline color, I can change it to be red. If I want to highlight it, I can change it to be whatever color you like. I can also change the thickness. So go back to the shape outline, and it's called a weight. So I can change this to be a big red arrow. I can also move the points around. I can shift wherever the arrow is pointing by clicking on that little green circle. I can, of course, change where it begins. The last thing I'll show you is a circle. So one way to highlight something is to draw an arrow. Another way is to draw a circle around it. So I'm going to go back to Insert, Shapes, and a circle. By default, the circles that Word draws are filled in. It's not very useful in a tutorial. So if I want to show where the local deals are, I don't want a circle that will block the image. So when I click on that circle, I'm going to change the shape fill. Right now the fill is white. I'm going to change it to no fill. And now you can see that I can actually see through. There's no fill inside the circle, so I can see through it. But this black isn't really doing anything for my audience, so I'm going to change the shape outline. So the shape fill, change the inside. I'm going to change the shape outline. I'm going to make that bright red. And it's still not particularly visible, so I'm going to change the weight, make that a little bit thicker. And now my audience can see it better. I can add an arrow. It might be overkill to have a circle and an arrow, but just to walk through the steps again. You'll learn as you're creating tutorials that your best friend will be the copy and paste functions. You don't want to keep doing this every time you want an arrow. You're going to have to draw the arrow, then you're going to have to change the color, then you're going to have to change the weight. So you make one, and then you just copy it and paste it however many times you need it. If you realize you need more, you go back up, click on it, copy and paste a few more. And these arrows can be moved, they can be changed to however you want them to be. Same with the circles. I can copy and paste them, and let's say I want to circle something smaller, I can always make the circle smaller. So copy and paste are good friends with tutorials.